Episode 40. Take one.
No.
It's 41 or 42 now.
I mean, no, according to Q, I think it's 40. Was it 39?
Okay, ufuna ukuzoslepa. Oza Q.
It's 40, bro. I'm telling you.
Oza Q.
I just said 40 now.
Yeah, it just said 40.
Oza Q. Q, come do your thing, man. Hey, Q, next thing is always do it. Uthi arini clap. Oza usizwe manje uclapayo.
Go ahead, Q.
Jeez. Wow.
There we go.
Okay, now rolling.
Yes.
Sound.
It's rolling.
We go to sound.
Q, we just wanted you to clap, bro. You don't have to do the whole thing.
The Penuel show.
Fuck.
Episode 40. Take one. Take two.
Take two. Get off. Can we not put cameras there?
That's a crazy.
Just people can see the clowns we work with. Oh, jeez. Okay. Compose myself. Is this going to be a serious conversation?
It doesn't have to be.
Why are you changing your tone? How we were laughing just now. We were laughing just
I
now.
want to be like you.
And laugh. Or be bold like me. Bold like me. Not bald. Bold. Sorry, Dr. Bonke Sumbulu. Welcome to the Penuel Show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. I know you've seen a lot of our recordings. I know that's an ambiguous statement. You've seen a lot of our recordings. And yeah, it had to happen, and I'm glad it's happening today. I don't think I have a specific topic I want us to cover, but I am hoping we'll speak about your career more than anything, because I don't think enough people speak comfortably and openly about your industry, and it's been trending for the past 2-3 years, the healthcare industry. And I just want to warn you, because I know you personally.
Oh, shit.
I want to warn you, please be careful of what you're saying, because your career is on the line.
Oh, shit.
So you're a medical doctor, or you're a doctor like Dr. Ndlozi, or like Dr. Dre and Dr. Khumalo?
No. I've got an NBCHB.
Come on, let them know.
I'm a qualified medical practitioner.
And people normally ask, are you not specializing?
It's the number one question that people ask. And for the longest time, I struggled with the question. What do you do? I'm a doctor. Oh, that's great. What are you specializing in? I'm not. What does that mean? Are you just a GP?
Just a GP.
And for the longest time, I would get nervous. I'd get worried. Should I say I'm just a GP? For the longest time, I would create stories. No, I'm going to study further. I'm going to specialize. And for some time, it was, I'm going to do my MBA. But the truth of the matter is that I never really wanted to specialize. I've always wanted to be a general practitioner. It's what I wanted. It's what I'm currently doing. And I couldn't be any happier. Being a general practitioner in current medicine is almost frowned upon. It's like you're just a GP. It's like just having a matric certificate. You need to go beyond. You must do something more. It's not enough. And for the longest time, it was about convincing maybe myself more than other people that, yes, I do want more. And during internship, ComServe, people are like, no, don't worry. Eventually, you will find a speciality that you like, and that's where you're going to find yourself. And so I went through internship, ComServe, post-ComServe, and there was nothing. I found myself in anesthesiology, working there for a couple of years. And
what's anesthesiology?
Anesthesiology is basically the doctors that put people to sleep. When a person is undergoing...
Put people to sleep?
Yes.
Like we're wrestling.
No.
Put them to sleep.
No, it's not like that. So when a person is undergoing surgical procedure, for pain management, to ensure that the person is not aware of what's happening, they need to be put under. And a general anesthesia or local or spinal, whatever the case may be, that's what I did. It's a very... important speciality. There's good money. So it made sense that, come on, you're doing the right thing. Wow, anesthesia. That's amazing. But the whole time it's like I'm crying on the inside. It's like, this is not what I really want to do. So long story short, I managed to escape and finally get to practice what I've always wanted to, which is general or family medicine, and that's being a GP. And I couldn't be any happier.
Why did you go into medicine? Because my assumption,
Yes,
because we studied with smart kids at school,
sure.
my assumption at the time was you go into medicine because you want to serve humanity, whatever that means. And then I come from Newcastle, relatively small, and doctors in my town were celebrities. They drove the fancy cars, and some of the kids that wanted to study medicine wanted to be rich. What were your reasons for going to medicine?
Two main reasons. One, I was always curious about the human body. Why do things happen the way they do? Why is a man a man? And why is a girl a girl?
Jeez, you were doing that when you were younger.
Yes.
Because we have that conversation now.
I know.
What's a man and what's a woman?
I know. What is a period? What does it mean? Why do girls go through this and not boys? That was the first thing. The second thing was, when I was a little girl, I remember going to the doctor with my mother. We came in for whatever the problem was at the time. And when we came out, we were all smiles. We're going to get medicine. And when we got home, everything is better. I wanted to be the person that made you feel better. And that's why I went into it.
And money?
Look, growing up, I didn't really know doctors that had money. For me, coming from a small town, they were ordinary people. The only thing that they were admired for was the title, Doctors Banban, Doctors Banban. But beyond that, I never saw the money. There were no fancy houses, fancy cars. And they seemed really happy. They seemed to enjoy what they did there. These nice offices, the lollipops in the corner, and, the degrees on the wall. And the most important thing was that they did what they wanted to do that made them happy. And ultimately, they made other people feel better. That's what I wanted.
In retrospect, is it everything you thought it was going to be?
And more.
Really?
Absolutely.
No disappointments?
Whatsoever. I'm completely content, and it is so fulfilling. And more than anything, it's a personal thing for me. I had to switch off all the other voices, the external voices, and listen to myself. What do you want? What makes you happy? Are you happy walking into theater, gowning up? Okay, guys, we're starting this procedure, talking to the patient for those 2-3 minutes. We do the procedure and that's it. I didn't like that. What I get to do now is have this almost like a relationship with my patient. They come in, they're nervous. You have no idea what to expect from your doctor. And most of the time, people are nervous. Am I going to like my doctor? Are they going to hear me? Are they going to understand what I'm saying to them? That's what I do. I listen. I hear you. I look at you. I get to do that every single day. It's being content. And for me, I feel like I've made it, Pen. I feel like I'm so successful with my life because this is what I've always wanted to do, and I'm enjoying it. The fact that I get paid for it is an ultimate bonus. Treating my patients, and just before they leave, they turn back and they said, thank you. Thank you so much. I was so scared. I was nervous. Thank you for hearing me. That they come back a week or two, a month's time, and they tell you that problem that I had, it's gone. And for me, the most gratifying experience is treating people not with medicine, but mostly, and this is my absolute passion, making lifestyle changes. More often than not, we consume takeaways, alcohol, cigarettes, weed. We don't exercise at all. We chill and watch Netflix or Showmax. A lot of the time, if we could just make the small changes, your skin starts clearing up. Your digestive system is much better. You sleep better at night. You control your emotions, your stress much, much better because you're helping your body out. You're taking care of your body. And when you do that, it takes much better care of you too. That's what I do. I get to do that every single day. Yes, it's not at specialist level, but for me, it's a grand experience.
I'm listening to you and you sound like you're selling a dream, right? And
Sure.
I've criticized doctors quite a bit.
Yes.
I never wanted to get into medicine ever. And it's not because I fear blood. I just don't want to be cutting people.
Boo.
The first time I started respecting the healthcare industry and doctors
Yes.
was Dr. Oz on Oprah. And what I really appreciated about him was he was practical, he was simple, he spoke to people, and that's probably why he's a superstar today.
Yeah.
You don't hear doctors speak about things like, look, I'm not going to lie. So doctors do speak about lifestyle changes.
Yes.
But generally, my understanding of your industry is if all of us were healthy, your guys would lose your jobs. So have you never had that have to decide, or maybe the people in your industry, I medicate, but I actually know if this person just drinks more water. But now if I just tell them to drink water and exercise and walk, I don't get to make money and the pharmacies don't have to make money. Don't you ever have that situation? Because I believe healthcare is mostly profit driven and not out of the goodness of your heart, the way you're painting it.
Oh, I feel like you're asking the wrong person because a lot of the time when I'm treating a patient and there's no medicine involved, they are more disappointed.
Okay.
So you're not giving me anything. No.
People want drugs.
People want drugs. People want antibiotics. People want pain management. That's the first thing. The other thing is when I feel that you just needed someone to talk to, someone to listen to, I almost don't want to charge them.
Which is counterintuitive to
Yes,
industry.
because it's not, for me anyway, it's not profit-based. And again, this is why I'm at GP level. This is why I'm not at specialist level. I'm not charging an arm and a leg for you to be in front of me and talk to me about your problem. So it's a very difficult question for me to answer, I must say.
You're a purist. You literally want people to live healthier and be happy.
It makes sense, Pen. And I've made changes in my own life. So I'm speaking from experience and not just what I've read in the books.
Do you believe your peers are the same?
That's a difficult question to answer.
I've met a lot of doctors abayidagwa, very reckless lives, which, look, it could happen, but you speak about making changes in your own life.
Correct.
And your outlook.
Yes.
And then I'm thinking of other doctors where I look at them and then I look at the cars they drive and I think in my head, I don't know if this person is driven by pure intentions of literally helping their patients.
Well, for starters, it's very difficult getting advice from someone who's telling you to lose weight, but they are themselves morbidly obese. It's very difficult for someone to tell you to quit smoking when their fingernails are yellow. And
Which means they smoke as well,
yeah, and they
but they're
reek
doctors.
of the smell.
And alcohol.
And alcohol.
Odokotela bayadakwa.
Unfortunately.
Sorry.
No, they do. They do. Myself included, I used to consume alcohol. And I've stopped for my own reasons, and some of them health-based.
Okay.
There was no benefit. I lost money because you spend more money on alcohol. Weight gain. Your skin clogs up and you start getting acne, or at least in my case. I started doing away small changes like that, and for me, it made a difference.
Sure.
So, yes.
I'm trying to figure out if you believe your peers are as purist as yourself, or if you are different.
I'd like to believe I'm different. One, and two, of the people that I went to school with or studied medicine with, I'd like to believe most of them went on to specialize, and a lot of them went on to say, look, we want money. We want money.
That was their reason for specializing.
Yes.
Not, look, I'm fascinated with this subject.
Sure. Yes, there's all of that.
But that's not what they say when you speak to them.
You're getting me into trouble.
Okay.
You're getting me into trouble.
Sorry.
I will say this, to each his own.
Okay.
To answer your question, I do think I'm a little bit different.
Okay.
I'm not driven by the money. I don't think I'm driven by the title. I'm just happy to be doing what I love. That's all.
Your background, for people that don't know,
Yes.
before you got into studying medicine, where did you grow up? What did your parents do before you decided to go to tertiary and study MBCHB?
First of all, I had an amazing upbringing. I can't even lie. I grew up in a small town of Beaufort, that's Bofolo in the Eastern Cape, small town.
It's known for citrus, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Bofolo with possets when I was going to Rhodes. Or from the way back, when I studied in Grahamstown, it was one of the drier little towns we'd pass through. But I remember it was popular for citrus.
Yes. Grew up, I was, or still am, the last born of 3 girls.
Okay.
And my mother was a nurse. And my father was a lecturer at the University of Fort Hare.
Okay. So the healthcare thing also was something at home.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Primary school was, I think, Fort Beaufort Primary. And then I went on to high school, the Landbou School Winterberg.
The word landbou.
The Landbou School Winterberg.
You studied in Afrikaans?
Some of the subjects were in Afrikaans. I
Hectic.
remember mathematics was definitely in Afrikaans.
Wiskunde.
That's correct.
Jeez. Bofundis bono.
I did.
Sorry.
Ek praat baie mooi Afrikaans, jong. Baie mooi Afrikaans.
That's impressive.
Thank
You
you.
spoke about your dad being a lecturer,
Correct.
and I'm trying to, because I do this thing of studying people and where they come from and why they make the decisions they do, right?
Yeah.
You talk about a great upbringing, small town.
Yeah.
People in small towns would normally be ambitious. So normally you'd want to be in the big city and make money. Your mom was a nurse,
Sure.
so I'm guessing that may have informed some of your healthcare gene desire.
Yes.
But now I'm listening, your dad was a lecturer.
Yes.
Do you think there's some of that in you wanting to arguably lecture to your patients?
Oh, yes.
Mm.
Oh, yes. My father was a teacher, I think, before anything else.
Mm.
Actually, before he was a lecturer, he taught, I think, high school, if I'm not mistaken, in the Transkei region. So he translated that to teaching at home. And my mother was so well organized. There was a cabinet with all the medicines and bandages, ointments. If you got sick, if there was a cough, there was everything ready on standby.
Hectic.
Very well organized.
Shout out to your mom. Do you know if that's normal for nurses?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
Because
don't
my
know.
mom was a teacher. I know we used to mark scripts. So that's a
Really?
teacher thing. But I don't know what a nurse's child would be raised with. You guys are taking medicine every time you sneeze.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And I actually don't remember getting all that sick. My mom would bring us stuff from the clinic.
Yeah.
My
Stealing supplies.
no.
Sorry.
Just-
So our mothers, the teachers. Ngiyaxolisa mama, ngiyaxolisa bo mama. Sorry to take you off track, by
Yes.
the way. We're going to carry on with your mom and the cabinet. You know, whenever people criticize the ANC with corruption and those things, I'm always like, you need to look in the mirror, because a lot of us in various ways, from bribing a traffic cop,
Yeah.
from lying on an affidavit, from stealing. A lot of school teachers that I knew, not my mom, of course. My mom didn't do this ever. But a lot of school teachers, they come home with stationery and, hey, corruption, Baba. But obviously
Yes.
on a small scale.
Yes.
Sorry. So your mom would bring medicine from wherever she got it from.
Yes, she did. And I think, in a sneaky kind of way, my mom started planting this idea of, you could also do this. You can also be a doctor. And when she saw my interest, she was very happy, of course. Grade 10, that's when I really, cemented the idea of my studying medicine. I had a plan of action. I knew where I wanted to study, what I had to study, and what marks I needed to get. Okay.
That was you on your own, or parents or school?
Definitely parents involved.
Okay. Shout out to your parents for making sure you have a plan.
100%. My father took me to, I think, the Wits Medical School at some point, grade 11. And he's like, if you want, we could go to the faculty officer and speak to them about the marks and etc. And we did. So going into grade 11, grade 12, I was well prepared. I knew what I needed to do, how much studying I needed to put into it.
Shout out to your dad, by the way.
I was
very
ready.
powerful.
So then I applied to study medicine. Of course, UCT was at the top of the list.
Of course.
Of course, come on.
UCT.
Come on.
Sorry, let me not.
UCT. I was there. UCT.
UCT and WITS, like thinking they fucking shit cold. Sorry.
UCT, WITS, UKZN, I think, University of Pretoria. What was the last one?
UKZN has a good healthcare department.
I think so.
And you know what's weird? So I'm not a tribalist and I'm non-racial. Let me add this disclaimer. I went to school with a lot of Indian kids.
Yes.
And the Indian kids are fucking amazing at academics.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of them would study things like medicine, pharmacy, and a lot of them would go to, I think, to Durban to go do medicine. Sorry, that's what I'm thinking. And I know if Indians are involved academically in a space, it's probably going to be brilliant.
Sure.
Academically. That's why I'm thinking it would make sense for UKZN to have like a bumping healthcare department. Sorry for that. So you applied TUKS.
UCT, WITS, UKZN.
Rhodes? No, Rhodes doesn't have medicine.
And I think
Forte, does Forte have medicine?
No, they don't.
Oh, sorry.
The last one was Free State, UOFS.
You never thought of applying a Medunza?
I did, but I couldn't get the address or something went
It's changed its name, no?
Yes, it has.
What's it called now?
Sefako.
Excuse me?
Sefako.
Sefako Machato.
Machato.
Sure.
That's the one.
Hoekom lag jy? Dis net 'n naam. Jeez. Sorry. So you didn't apply to Medunza?
I didn't apply to Medunza.
Because you couldn't find the address. Where's the address for Medunza? It's
I actually tried. There was a problem. I kept calling. No one was answering the phones, etc. Because I think around March, grade 12, I started calling all the universities, trying to find out when application opens, when it ends, how do I get the forms, etc. And all the universities answered with the exception of Medunza.
okay.
So I applied. My dad
I hope
was...
they fixed that, if that was actually a thing they had. I hope Sefako Machato has sorted that out.
That was quite a while ago, so I'm sure they have.
Sure.
My father was, adamant that, don't just apply to one or two. Spread your wings, try yourself out. So I applied.
But you wanted UCT?
I wanted UCT so badly. Okay.
The country of Cape Town. The independent state of Cape Town.
But, remember now, I was born in Cape Town. I wasn't born in the Eastern Cape. So lots of family in Cape Town. My father, my mother, both from Cape Town. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everywhere.
Oh, so Cape Town is home.
Is home.
That's part of the appeal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I take it back. I ain't gonna say Tegwini, that one run away from home. Okay.
Universities reply, thank you so much. We've received your application. We will reply formally once the results are out.
Sure.
Results come out and they're not that great.
Compared to your normal standard?
Compared to my normal standard.
Okay.
And, I was expected to have multiple distinctions, and I came out, I think, with just 2. And I got C's in the main subjects, mathematics, physical science.
Yeah.
And the reply started coming back. We regret to inform you. UCT. My heart sank. But why don't you consider a degree in the Bachelor of Sciences? Okay. WITS, we regret to inform you. UOFS, we regret to inform you. Check UKZN
and TUKS.
And TUKS. At this point, I'm not even opening the full thing. I'm just looking at the first few words. I'm looking for a C, a congratulations.
Yeah.
I just peeped and I saw a W for we regret. And the last one, I all fingers crossed, anus is tight. And no, we regret to inform you. I was shattered. Completely shattered. This is my dream.
Yeah.
This is what I want. It's not like oh, I'll try maybe geology, or
Yeah.
I want
You
medicine.
wanted to be a doctor.
I want to be a doctor,
from
and I'm
years
ready.
ago.
They all said the same thing. Look, try a BSc, and then you can come back.
What does that mean? You can come back.
You can reapply maybe once you've completed your Bachelor of Sciences.
How does that work?
Because now maybe your marks will be better, your postgrad, so to speak.
I don't understand how your marks would be better. So when you're applying for medicine, you apply with your matric marks.
Correct. Your marks in varsity.
After you've done BSc, don't they still use your matric marks for medicine?
No, they
so
don't.
they can use your BSc marks.
Yes.
Okay.
And I guess it's
I
like
didn't know
a
that.
test of sorts. Ukuthi, if you can manage with this
Yeah.
and get good marks,
Yeah.
then you'll probably be able to manage an MBCHB.
Do you know if this is a common thing that where children start with a BSc and then graduates to medicine?
Very, very common. Very common. Unfortunately, the bulk of the people that do that don't end up making it into medicine. Because
Like they don't qualify.
maybe they don't qualify, yes, 1. 2,
Okay.
they lose interest.
Fair enough.
3, whatever other degree that they are now studying
Sure.
is more appealing.
Okay.
So they all said the same thing. UCT is like, we regret, but look, come through for a BSc.
Still UCT, but fuck.
I'm going in, and
You took it?
I took it.
Do you remember your mindset at the time? Because I know kids are very sensitive, man. And the idea in matric of not getting to study what you want to study, I don't even know if we knew what depression was back then, but you know.
Oh, I was so disappointed. Worse is, you'd see all the kids from medical campus and they'd come to the main campus in their white coats. Oh, we're doing medicine. And they'd walk around with stethoscopes. And in my mind, I'm just like, stab all of you. And very, very disappointed. It was a difficult time, especially the first couple of months. People introduced themselves. Hi, I'm Kanye. I'm studying medicine. I'm at the medical campus. Hi, Jabu. Hi, Kolani. Medicine, MBCHB1. Very, very disappointing. Went to Cape Town, UCT. Not completed my BSc. Did my first year BSc. Fine. No worries. Second year BSc. I don't want to do this thing anymore. I don't like it.
It's not what you wanted,
It's
man.
not what I wanted. I don't want to be on this campus. I want to be on the medical campus with the medical students. I don't want to be dissecting lobsters and frogs and analyzing plants. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm seeing all these other students in other faculties, Faculty of Arts,
Commerce.
fancy things. I'm doing law, pre-law, pre-medicine, whatever. Fancy degrees, Pen.
You don't think the BSc was fancy?
Not at all.
Even to this day, you still feel the same?
Sadly, yes.
Jeez. Because people normally laugh at the
Sorry.
arts. But a Bachelor of Sciences would sound serious. It's just, I'm not sure of the careers in there. Plants, botany, animals,
Zoology,
zoology,
entomology, insects.
entomology.
Entomology. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Plants, insects,
Yeah.
and animals.
Don't do that face. There's a lot of kids that study that stuff. And just like you, they saw ants climbing up a tree when they were in grade 10. They were like, one day I will make sure that I take the thorn out of the lion's paw.
Yes.
Not for you.
For them, yes. Not for me.
you.
Not for me. So I decided to change my degree. But before I did, I informed my parents, Mom, Dad, I'm not happy with this. And I want to change.
Yeah.
My father and my mother decided to drive down from the Eastern Cape of Buffalo.
Yeah.
Came through to Cape Town. Hey, we're worried about you. What's happening? You've always wanted to do medicine.
Yeah.
Bonke, we know that this is not what you want, but you need to understand that in life there's always going to be challenges. There's going to be detours. You need to stay focused. Stay focused. This is what you always wanted. But Dada, I'm miserable and I hate it here. I hate what I'm studying. And, if I change my degree, I've looked at the prospects. I can go into a good career and I can make money. And I've researched it. And my father was like, I know it's frustrating, but please just hang in there. You can do this. Okay, I'll try.
Shout out to your parents again, featuring
Shout out, definitely.
prominently.
Shout out.
Sure.
My parents left, went back to the Eastern Cape, and I was like, no, I'm changing.
Because that's what students do. You guys don't fucking listen.
I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to look at grass anymore and insects. So I changed my degree.
You came from a landbouw school, agricultural school. This should be... I'm guessing your school probably had animals, right?
100%.
Oh, but this is close to... If you were in an agricultural school, a landbouw...
I was...
Now
yes.
you're here with the animals. That's actually your calling.
Sure, but I wasn't studying agriculture at my school. I did accounting, mathematics, typing.
Agricultural schools don't just do...
No.
Okay.
No, they have agriculture as an additional subject.
Okay. By the way, I just want to say we need more agricultural schools in this country as a matter of, I don't know what, survival. One of the things, so I've researched your school, the word landbouw school.
You were landbouw school, Winterberg.
I don't know if it's the only, but I saw an article that said it is a self-sustaining school.
Yes.
Which I think is pretty dope, which means the produce the school gives off, the stuff they sell, whether it's animals, I'm assuming it's probably linked to citrus in the town.
Yes.
The school makes enough money to sustain itself. And for me, that's like exactly what education should be.
I was very privileged to have studied at my school.
Yeah.
We would read Macbeth outside on the grass, and the sheep would be there. Blah, blah. But it was nice. We're under the trees, and if we were good enough, we get to go outside and read.
But schools in the Eastern Cape read under trees.
I know, it's not like that.
Oh, it's not like that?
No, it wasn't like that.
But schools in the Eastern Cape, it's read outside.
It was the fresh smell of manure.
Ew. That's disgusting.
Good old days.
Sorry, back to varsity. So, thank you so much to my great parents, but I'm quitting.
Yes, I quit.
Yeah.
Changed my degree. Suddenly I'm walking around in the law campus, and I'm there with the commerce people. I don't even remember what I changed to. I think I did more than okay. Actually, I did well. I think I changed in the second semester.
But you don't remember what you studied?
Business science.
Hectic. Okay.
Finance. Business finance, I think, is what I did, if I'm not mistaken. I did that. There was some law, bit of mathematics, nice things.
I think it's business science.
Business science, ne? So I did that, and at the end of the year, I come home, and the academic statement comes back. And my father says, "What's this? What is this?" I would that, and I wasn't happy. I told you, Mos, but we had this discussion, Bonke. No, but Dada, I didn't want the frogs anymore. I was tired, and I looked at it, and my father was like, "That's it. I'm not going to pay for you to be at UCT anymore." Bearing in mind, I'd done so well in that second semester, Pen. I think there was a reward system of sorts where if you got a certain percentage, the university would give you money.
Okay.
So I got money because of that, and they deducted from my tuition fees. Yeah. And I'd also gotten NSFAS.
Okay.
So my parents weren't really paying.
Okay.
But it's fine. I think my mother paid for the first semester, and in the second semester, because of this reward system and the NSFAS, they sort of, managed to take care of my tuition, the remainder of my tuition. So my dad says, "That's it, au mameli. There's no more UCT, you're coming back home. My father's a lecturer at the University of Fort Hare. You're going to come and study here. You're going to stay with us. There's no more res, there's no more nothing."
You said there's no medicine at Fort Hare.
No medicine.
Oh, but there's science.
Yes. And it wasn't the East London campus. It was the Fort Hare campus in Ellis.
Small town.
Small town. You.
That's a huge change from Cape Town.
Depression. I cried every day, I think, for the first 2 weeks. I hated it. I'm coming from this grand UCT with these huge libraries. And
Jameson Stairs. Is it the
shuttle,
Jameson Stairs?
Yes, it is. To now, I have to quella a taxi from Epofolo to Alice. I must, and they would lecture in isiXhosa.
In isiXhosa?
In isiXhosa.
That's progressive, by the way, because that's something that Black people in South Africa have been wanting.
Wow, two guys, I think to Xhosa. Is there anyone on Xhosa? And there was one colored boy. Yes. No, yes, you don't need the others will tell you. So let's start the lecture, guys. In the but this is Chem 101. And they'd go on and on in Xhosa. They did credit me for, I think I did chemistry first year and mathematics. So they did credit me.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh, come on. UCT's chemistry is not that great anyway. We think we should repeat it. And of course, my father, I think, stepped in for me and he's like, no, they've got a good program. I think my daughter, etc., can please just credit her for these things. So they did.
I've got mixed feelings about what you're telling me right now.
Please.
So I appreciate that your parents were very involved in high school.
Yeah.
And they tried to make your dream a reality. Like
they did.
Your dad at Wits showing you like this is basically what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
And their support, and even in tough times, because it's a privilege, by the way, especially for a lot of black children in South Africa. The idea of your parents being able to travel to you at tertiary level and come in and advise you when you're in a tough space, and your father having the experience.
Yes.
Students will change. I think my brother changed from geology to psychology, I think without telling my mom as well.
Yeah.
You did well. You proved that I'm in the right place. Because at least from a parenting perspective, one of my things, this is mine, people can criticize me. I aim to be a dictator father who dictates what my children should do. And my whole thing is, if my children want to do something else, number one, they must do it in their spare time. Number two, at their own cost or wherever they can get money from, like an NSFAS.
Yes.
And then number three, they must prove that they are relatively good at what they're doing. Because then you've defeated me. If I'm paying for you to go to school and then you play soccer, rugby on the side, and then you get a rugby scholarship, soccer scholarship, and you're getting selected for teams and you're going to an academy overseas, whatever dream I had, I can be like, look, you've defeated me because you've proven that you're great.
Yeah.
But now for the idea of your parents almost saying, as well as you did, we don't care.
Yeah.
I don't know about back then, but maybe even in retrospect, do you arguably think they did the wrong thing?
No. Not at all. So
at the time though, yes. Because you were depressed.
At the time I hated my father.
Okay.
At the time I couldn't.
Your mom didn't say anything? Ooh, good cop, bad cop. Mom's like, hey, tatako. I don't know.
My mother tried. Okay, just give it a try. 6 months to a year, maybe you can go back to UCT. My elder sister at the time was like, let's try to get you to Wits. Everyone tried. But my father remained adamant, no, she's going to stay here. She's going to finish. In retrospect, I really appreciate my father for doing that. Do
you understand the gamble though?
What do you mean?
Given a similar circumstance with your child and they go through the same thing, now you have to decide whether to be stern and say, no, you're going to push this thing, or, okay, if you really want to try something else, what decision would you make? Considering that, look, obviously you want to tell us the story of how you ended up being a doctor, but anything could have happened. I mean, especially in those depressed 2 weeks, we know what happens with some depressed kids today.
Yeah.
They end up taking their lives.
Yeah.
Kind of situation. Some maybe alcohol abuse, drug abuse, etc.
I think because they knew I had a good support system.
Yeah.
Even if I became depressed, they would be there for me.
Yeah.
1 and 2, because I'd always showed such a keen interest in medicine. My father knew that this is what this girl wanted to do. My father, I think, also knew that maybe this is the first real challenge that my daughter is now having to face head on.
Yeah.
And I need to dictate to her because I can see that this is something that she really wants. She's just frustrated.
So you do the same, given the same circumstances?
I think so.
Okay.
What comes to mind now is a picture that I'd always had, and I think I still have it. A picture of a fetus in utero. And it was an article written by an obstetrician and gynecologist. And, I'd all these articles on medicine and doctors, and I'd kept these. And in matric, they were plastered all over my wall. because this is something that I really wanted.
You had posters of?
Medical articles.
We had posters of Christina Aguilera.
No,
and Britney Spears and Christina Milian.
I also had the posters of B2K. Shout out Raz. Raz B.
That's embarrassing.
They were
or Marion.
I also had the posters.
But you had medical articles.
I did.
No, you really wanted it.
I really wanted it. And there was a quote my father gave to me, I think at the time, and he says, "Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass." And I think that's the time he gave me that quote to say, this is what you've always wanted. It's not just going to happen that easily. You have to fight for it. And I know that I'm being the bad guy right now, but I know this is what you want.
That's parenting, boy. That's fathering there. That's fathering there. Shout out to your dad.
I started to let go. Okay, ndilapha ngoku, I'm back at Alice. And the shame, the neighbors, you ubuyile, hayi bosisi. Ubungekho seKapa nantombi. Kwenzeke ntoni? And I had to explain.
People probably thought you'd failed.
Yes. So I came back home.
Or there's no more money at home. Ach, shame.
Shame. And slowly but surely started falling in love with Forte.
And Alice. I'm imagining like Santon and Alexandra. Forte makes me sad as an institution. The Eastern Cape makes me sad as a province.
Yes.
Forte, for people that maybe don't know, is where some of African leaders went to study. You can look them up, and it's meant to be with the democracy and black governments.
Yeah.
I mean, people like Robert Mugabe.
Yeah.
It was meant to be the premium black excellence institution, probably arguably on the African continent. And what it's become, to a point where a child, UCT, Forte, again, it's a story of the Eastern Cape. Thabo Mbeki, Nelson Mandela. You had guys like Obantu Bigo or Mangaliso Sobukwe, even though they've passed on. But so many amazing Xhosa leaders, so many amazing Xhosa business people, multimillionaires, billionaires that have failed to transform the place so that it becomes what I think it should have been. Makes me very sad. So I think I just want to say that, so that when we speak about Forte, we're not just white UCT and black Forte. This was actually a great institution, and somewhere along the way, people failed. And I hope somewhere along the way, people go back and try and fix that. Sorry, you fell in love with Forte and Alice.
Started falling in love with the Forte, and started growing.
Yeah.
Becoming a woman. So when I was in standard 6.
Grade 8. Geez, you're old. Exposing your age.
Grade 8.
Grade 8.
My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Shit.
And, she had the mastectomy.
When you were in grade 8?
Grade 8.
In high school?
Yes.
Okay.
She was diagnosed with breast cancer. She had the surgery, removed both breasts. She went through chemo, went through radiation, and she was cleared of the cancer.
I wanted to make a joke, but I'm so glad you're raising this, because it would have probably been inappropriate about chemo, because normally you have to cut your hair.
Yeah.
So I was going to be like, hey, how's the chemo? Shit. So your mom underwent chemo?
She did.
She had to cut her hair?
She did.
Sorry, I apologize to anyone who's listening. I'm only saying this to you, but I apologize. Because we say these things and then you find out, I actually have a condition. Like, shit. I lose weight, Baba. You're like, actually, I have something. You're like, I'm so sorry. Sorry. So your mom had to cut her hair as well?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Fast forward.
I'm sorry, by the way, about
you.
your mom and what would have been an inappropriate joke, I believe, even though you were laughing. So maybe too soon, or
no. Fast forward to my being in Forte. This is 2010. The cancer came back.
So she'd gotten rid of it through chemo?
Yes, okay. Chemo, radio, and the surgery. 2010, around the World Cup time.
Sorry, just a quick, since you're a doctor, what is chemotherapy? What is radio? Radiotherapy. So
it's a treatment modality. It's a type of treatment for cancer.
Okay.
The one is surgical, so we remove the lump
Okay.
and maybe the surrounding tissue. And
A
then,
lump that is cancerous.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. And then 2 days radio, which is like burning the cells.
Okay.
And then chemotherapy is the medical removal, if I can say that. Medical treatment, so drugs. That's where they put up the IV line. You have an oncologist, they put up an IV line where you go to the center and they put up these IV line bags of drugs.
Yeah.
That's the chemo.
What is it supposed to do?
It's meant to remove, it's meant to
So we're not
treat.
surgically removing, we're not burning.
It depending on the staging,
Okay.
you can surgically remove it
Yeah.
and or burn the cells, radiotherapy, and or medically remove or medically treat the cancer. So my mother's, I can't remember the staging,
Yeah.
but she had all 3 treatment modalities.
Hectic.
So
What is cancer as well? Sorry.
it is the abnormal replication of and multiplication of cells, abnormal cells.
Abnormal multiplication
Yes, and
of cells.
and replication of cells.
Normal cells, not infected
Abnormal
cells.
cells.
Or abnormal cells. So there's
cells.
something funny about them.
Yes.
Yo, I was going to make another inappropriate joke. I'm sorry.
Stop it.
No, I was just thinking of people coming into a country illegally. And
Yeah.
that if you were to be like, these people are a cancer, you kind of, and then they have kids, which means they multiply.
We can say that.
Sorry. But yes, so maybe this is an analogy and
Yeah.
maybe it's not that insensitive.
Yeah.
So your body is like a country.
Yeah?
And then when people come in, they shouldn't be there. They come in and then they start having kids. Illegal immigrants. That's something, cancers like that in your body.
Yes, illegal.
And then you have to get rid of, okay. Then you have to get rid of the cancer.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. When you get to Fort Hare, the cancer came back.
Yes, around World Cup time 2010. Cancer's back. This time I think it was in her breastbone.
Because she'd removed her breast. Or not yet at the time.
No, she had removed the breast back then. Now the cancer's coming back, but elsewhere.
Shit.
There's no option for surgery this time. So radio, burning of the cells again, and the medical treatment now, chemo again. This time I think the staging was worse. It was advanced. In retrospect, I was privileged to have gone back and studied at Forte because I got to take care of my mom. A few weeks later on, I think it was discovered that the cancer had also spread to her liver. So she was quite sick. 2010 is my final year of the BSc at Forte. Am I meant to continue with this BSc line because now I'd fallen in love. I'd started tutoring at Forte. I'd gotten an opportunity.
Fallen in love. Mjolo.
Fallen in love with the BSc.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
With BSc.
Okay.
And I'd been offered the opportunity to continue further with the BSc, do my honors overseas.
That's impressive.
So there was that. And then the medicine. Mama, I don't know what to do. My dad, of course, it's a non-issue. You're doing medicine. This is what you've always wanted to do. My mom is like, I don't know anymore.
I may have missed something. Did you say you tutored or you lectured?
I did.
So at some point you followed in your father's footsteps.
I did.
That's brilliant.
I did.
I wanted to ask, sorry, before you carry on. Number one, what causes cancer? Number one.
Oof.
Number two, you're saying your mom was sick, and I'm listening to the multiplication of abnormal cells, and I want to know, is it the cancer that makes you sick?
Oof.
Sorry. What causes cancer, and is it the cancer that makes you sick?
Very difficult questions to answer because it's not clear cut. I can't say smoking gives you cancer.
Okay.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things.
Okay.
I will speak to my mother's case. So in my mother's case, I'd say it was genetic. So my mother had cancer. Her mother had cancer. Her grandmother had cancer.
Okay.
And
so you have a high probability.
Correct.
Okay.
So my mother had the cancer. And at the same time, my first cousin, my mother's sister's son, also had cancer, had colon cancer. He was, I think, stage 4. So they were both sick at the same time.
Okay.
So in my mother's case, definitely, I think genetics played a big part.
Okay.
I can't argue. My mother didn't smoke. My mother didn't drink. Those are some of the factors that can also contribute.
Okay.
Things like contraceptives can also play a role.
A role in what?
In contributing
to getting cancer.
Yes.
Contraceptives.
Some of them.
I want to crack jokes, but I feel like it's inappropriate.
Some of them are protective.
I want to say spoon.
Some of them can be protective.
Of cancer.
Yes, contraceptives. Okay. And others have been known to be the cause. So there's still studies. It's very difficult to say.
And some of these things are still sold.
Correct. Other things that contribute are things like exposure to estrogens, for example, the number of kids that you've had. If you didn't have children, if you had too many children, how long you've had your period for. So if you got your menses when you were young and you had menopause or you reached menopause later on in life. So you've had a much longer exposure to certain hormones, estrogens, progesterones, etc. If you didn't have children, that can sometimes expose your body to more predisposed to cancers.
This is for females only?
Yes. Okay. This is purely for females.
Okay.
So in my mother's case, my mother was my mother worked out. She was always taking walks, drinking water, ate very healthy. And it was a hard pill to swallow, considering, I'd say, of all of her siblings. And I think this is something they would also, acknowledge, that she was the healthiest. So why would it target her? My mother was never on contraceptives as far as I know. She had 3 children.
You support contraceptives? Smoke. Sorry, quick detour.
Oof.
You don't have to answer. We can discuss it another time.
Okay. Another time, because it's quite a lengthy discussion.
Okay.
You asked me that.
She was living a very healthy life, and it didn't make sense. Why her?
Why her?
Yeah.
And she also asked herself the same thing. Why me? I eat so well. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I stay at home. I had a good career. I'm healthy. I'm a praying woman. I'm religious. I'm spiritual. I'm all of that stuff.
Her family's lifestyle. I don't know if you have any idea of her mom, her grandmom, her siblings. Do you have any idea of the difference if she was the healthiest? Because I've got a very sneaky question and I don't know if you have the answer to it or if you're allowed to engage.
What's your question?
I wanted to know about their background because
so
I'm going to reference a movie, one of my favorite animated movies, Kung Fu Panda.
Yes.
Which I think is very philosophical, I love it, the trilogy. There's a part where the panda meets other pandas.
Yes.
And he realizes that he's been living a life that's not panda-like. And I don't know much about medicine and healthcare, but I research and I read articles and stuff. And when people get sick, specifically things like, let's say, a cancer, which is cells, being susceptible to certain things, I try to look at environment, of course. Maybe you're getting sick because your family was always in Africa in the heat, and you're growing up in a cold Europe, and that's why you're now getting things that your family didn't. Then I think of diet. Your family used to eat this. I mean, when you look at pandas, for example, they eat bamboo, and now you're feeding a panda meat, and now it starts getting sick. It's like you're not meant to be on this diet.
Yeah.
Then I start thinking about what if you're going against your family genetic. So, and look, I don't know anything about medicine at all, but I'm trying to figure out if her siblings were not that healthy and she was super healthy and maybe her mom was super healthy. I wonder if something like that, being too healthy, could potentially be a problem because you're almost fighting who you are and are supposed to be. Let me give you one last example. So you're a black African woman.
Yes.
You're dark. We're built with melanin for the sun.
Yeah.
And then you decide to stay indoors, bleach, use skin lightening products, and then you go into the sun. And and now you get, let's say, a skin cancer where the rest of your family isn't, but that's because they've always been out in the sun, and you went and tweaked who you are, and now it's kind of coming back to hit you. I'm trying to figure out if things like that could happen.
My maternal grandmother, my mom's mother, I would like to believe that her lifestyle, with the exception of the smoking with the exception of alcohol, had pretty much the same diet and lifestyle as my mother's siblings.
Okay.
One. And two, my mother's doctors had always maintained, because she kept asking, why me? And they said, perhaps you're working out and having such a good lifestyle is what protected you maybe from having the cancer, one, earlier on, one, and two, the cancer coming back much later on.
Okay.
So maybe you're having this good lifestyle, eating right, working out, was protective for you.
Sure.
So things could have gotten out of hand much sooner
and
faster.
And as a medical doctor, you agree with that?
I had to, and
I'm asking even now. Because like I said, I'm asking a sneaky question because I don't know anything about medicine.
I'd like to believe, yes, it was more protective.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. Sorry, you were speaking about your mom. The cancer came back and you said it was in the breastbone.
Yes.
And also in the liver.
Yes.
Okay, but you were in fourth year now.
Final year.
Closer to her.
Final year. The doctors are like, look, she's got about a couple of months maybe. I only got to learn of this later on. My father went and asked the doctors, how much time do we have?
How do you guys calculate that? The time you have left?
It's based on the staging and how aggressive it is.
Okay. And then based on past experiences, normally people that have this level of aggravation, normally, okay.
Yes. So her cancer had metastasized, which is spread. And
what's the word?
Metastasized.
Metastasized. Okay.
So it had metastasized and it was growing very rapidly. Very aggressive staging. So, one, I get to take care of my mother. I get to nurse my mother in a way. Two, I get to grow up.
Yeah. I'm
now almost the woman in the house. I'm cooking. I'm cleaning. I'm driving myself to varsity and back. Looking after my nephew, who at the time was, I think, 2 or 3 years old. And I became his mother. At the time, I got to be responsible in the neighborhood when there was umcimbi or function. My mother would send me, please go out, do this, you're representing me. Take your apron, take a knife, take a peeler. You're going to be me. My mom was now starting to groom me to be a woman. This is what a woman does. This is how you take care of your husband. This is how you take care of the children. My mother brought us closer and she said, look, you guys can see. I'm not going to make it for much longer. You can see me. But I've groomed you guys. Nikulile and she mdana. I'm not leaving behind babies. You're all grown women, and I'd like to believe that I've raised you well. You've got all the tools, the necessary tools to become adults and be women, great women. I'll always be forever grateful of that opportunity to say my goodbyes to my mother. I got to take care of her. I got to nurse her. And whilst with all of this sickness happening, I got accepted. So I applied again to study medicine. And this time it was only one university. I was like, if this one doesn't take me, then that's it. So I applied to the University of Pretoria and I got accepted within a matter of weeks. And my mother made it a point that she got me a bursary before she passed so that there's never any excuse or reason for me to not follow through with my dream because she knew how much I wanted it. You've always wanted to be a doctor. Here's the funding. Go out there and spread your wings and fly. I got into med school and of course within no time, my mother passed. Bittersweet. Bitter because my mom's gone. She's this one person who's been there, my constant. Sweet
One of the guys
because
is getting you tissue.
sweet because you're living your dream. And my mom got to see me. She never got to see me graduate, of course, but she got to see me going into med school. She made sure that I got a place to stay, and she sent money where she could. And yeah, I remember the day my father called. It was early in the morning, and he says, "Bonke,
Thank you so much, Des.
thank you. Your mother's gone." Of course, it was no surprise.
Please wipe the nose as well.
Thank you. Sorry. It was no surprise at all. And in a way, I was relieved. The last couple of weeks, my mother was in a lot of pain. You asked the question, what actually causes the pain? Is cancer
what
painful?
causes the sickness? Is it the cancer or something else?
Well, in my mother's case, her liver was not functioning anymore. It was swollen, so she was in a lot of pain, constant pain. And she had to take morphine in the last few weeks of her life.
What does morphine do? Sorry.
It's pain management. It's an opioid.
What does it? Does it? My understanding of pain.
Pain control. So it's
I'm
pain
trying to
reliever.
ask when you take a headache tablet or a painkiller, is it removing pain or is it switching off a signal to your body to pretend the pain is not there?
Analgesic. It removes the pain. I'm just trying to find the rooting of the word.
Okay.
And there's different types of pain medications, depending on the severity of the pain. So there's your paracetamols, your Panados, your non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, your Brufens, and then you get your opioids, which are the stronger drugs. And it's a very strong drug. And the way she would explain it and the way I explain it to my patients as well, it's almost like you're high the whole time. So it is like kind of like switching off this pain and the concept of pain in your brain, and you're unawares. And she was sleepy a lot of the time. And I remember it was a Sunday morning, and she said, "I can't do it anymore. I'm in so much pain." She couldn't eat. She couldn't take drugs anymore because the liver is responsible for breaking down things like fats and drugs. So because it was so swollen and it's not functioning anymore, she would throw up a lot of the time. She'd lost a lot of weight. She was sick. She was dying. But I'm so proud of this that I got to be there. I got to see her. Unfortunately, I wasn't there when she passed. My two sisters were. And they tell me the story all the time of how beautiful her passing was. And I'm sorry I wasn't there. But it's something that I look back on, and I'm content.
I've had a conversation with a lady here on the Penuel show speaking about losing her mom as well.
Yeah.
And part of what we touched on was, because I think it's about your belief system, right? The concept of a person no longer being here, a person being here, your mom grooming you and you literally being her representative.
Yeah.
And the idea of her living inside you.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask if there's a reason you cut your hair.
Oh.
And if you're aware, because my beliefs are a bit not really stable.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to listen to a whole lot of different explanations.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of things we cannot explain.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you knew before cutting your hair that we're going to be sitting like this and that we might be speaking about your mom, and that there's a chance that even in the conversation you'd get to represent her. She had to cut her hair, you know.
She did. So
it's almost like you're telling her story from her side.
oh yeah. When she was initially diagnosed with the cancer and she underwent the chemotherapy is what actually makes your hair fall off, because it's drugs that are meant to be so toxic that they're meant to kill these abnormal cells, right? But in their killing abnormal cells, they also destroy healthy, normal cells, including hair cells. So the hair starts falling off. And I'd like to think the reason why people with cancer chop their or shave their hair is because because the hair is falling off in patches.
Sure.
So rather just shave it off and start from scratch and maybe keep shaving until you've completed your chemotherapy. My mother shaved her hair and she started wearing wigs. And she didn't like them. Unfortunately for her, her hair never really grew back after the chemo. So she had to wear wigs. And I remember her saying to me, Danam, I hope you never get to wear wigs, or I hope you never wear wigs, because you've got beautiful hair and you've got beautiful skin. And you should never put something on to be something that you're not. That's the first part. The second part, and I'm trying to answer your question on why I shaved my hair off. Growing up, I had issues with confidence and self-esteem. I was never good enough for myself. Though other people thought, no, you can't, she's confident, she's good. Things like my not getting into med school the first time around knocked my confidence. I always had reasons for not being good enough. I started wearing wigs. I started putting on fake nails. I never put on makeup because it's not something my mother did or something that I saw. I was scared to be a GP because that's not good enough. And it took me a long time for me to be confident with being a GP, being content and being so fulfilled. For me, it was never enough. Shaving my hair off was symbolic for me in the sense that for me, it means you are enough. You are good enough for yourself. You are brave, you are strong, and fortunately for me, it's an opportunity for me to show my daughter that you can be yourself without the wigs, without braids, without fake nails, without fake lashes, without fancy clothing or shoes. You are enough. And for me, that is I guess it feels like my mother is speaking to me. Every time I look into the mirror now, looking like this, I see her. And it feels good because for the first time in my life, there's nothing to hide behind. There's no braids. There's no fancy accessories. It's just me. And it feels really, really good.
There's a movie called Breaking All the Rules, Jamie Foxx.
Yes.
And in that movie, there's a point where Jamie Foxx says, be careful when a woman cuts her hair. Because it normally means something significant or there's been a significant change in her life.
Yeah.
Your mom's passing, do you believe it gave you a new purpose in wanting to now really become a doctor? And I apologize if this might be insensitive, but with your experience now in medicine, do you think there are some innovations we have or some alternative medicines that maybe you guys could have looked at to maybe alleviate the pain, to extend her life, to maybe even potentially get rid of the cancer?
We did. We did look to alternative options. We tried herbal medicines. We tried, the traditional route of izangoma, befundisi. I'd like to believe, explored all the possible, things that are out there.
Do you believe in that stuff today, especially as a qualified medical doctor?
Sure. I think it's important to explore other avenues when you feel that maybe they could make a difference. I've never really looked into alternative medicine, so I can't really answer. But I think there's nothing wrong with exploring. There's nothing wrong in trying to find hope, because there were times when we also were so hopeful that maybe if we try this or if we try that. Yeah. And it's only later on that my father told me of these things, because I was relatively young at the time. I think I was 22 when my mom passed. So they didn't really tell us about these things. We'd see our aunts coming from Cape Town, and then they'd go away for the day and they'd come back with bottles of all sorts of concoctions and plants and remedies. I think it's okay to explore. I think it's okay to look to alternative options. I don't think there's anything wrong. But then this is what happens, and what I've at least seen in my experience. People will completely let go of Western medicine. Yeah. So I'm not going to go for chemo. I'm not going to go for radiotherapy. I'm not even going to go for surgery. This is what my traditional practitioner has said. I must drink this, and I must and things will come right. But when they come back, the cancer's progressed and they stage 4, and the only option for them is now palliation, which is just taking care of them, making sure their pain management is good, they are comfortable, preparing them to die, so to speak. I think maybe not let go of Western medicine, because there's a science to it. These things have been investigated. There's real life experiences of people that have undergone chemo, radio, surgery, and they've gone into remission. Don't let go of that. It's okay to try other things, but they must run parallel, I think, with this. Okay. With the Western medicine. The other thing I would like to say is, and I know it can never really be the same, but a good support system makes a big difference. Having people around you, eating well, and this is difficult to say because people with undergoing chemo are nauseous half the time, they don't want to eat. But when you have that supportive system, people cooking, people, if you're into praying, people that pray, if you're into meditating, meditate, if you like taking walks. In other words, I'm trying to say, keeping a healthy mind amidst this illness and chaos in your mind. A healthy mind, I think, definitely makes a difference.
I've got a couple of questions, but maybe we can close off with this one. Not close off, but close off this one. It gave you an added purpose to want to finish your medicine qualification.
Oh, yes. Yes.
The other things I wanted to ask were, would you have ever considered specializing in something like the liver, specifically because it's something that affected you at home? Or I don't know if there's a specialization in cancer.
Oh, definitely. Oncology, yeah.
And then the last one was going to be, you spoke about medicine being a science. Yeah. And I don't want to discuss the pandemic that we had, because having spoken to a lot of doctors, I realize it's controversial even for them to speak. But sure. I wanted to ask you if you believe that science is enough, and your understanding just generally of what science is, especially in the space of, we're speaking medicine and arguably traditional African. And if we can't say that traditional and African is also science, and it's just different streams of science
Sure.
that maybe can coexist or help each other. And then the last one being, what are traditionalists missing about Western medicine? I know we've got a lot of our concerns, in particular because of who has spearheaded Western medicine on this continent, just like religion, and what their intentions are,
Yeah.
especially of a people that are poor and mentally and spiritually broken. But what are people potentially missing? Yeah, and then maybe also the link to science. But sorry, so you had an added push, which didn't need your father to be stern. It's like, look, here's mom, so you kind of have to fulfill your destiny now.
I'll start with your liver question. After my mother passed, initially it became very difficult to study, particularly pathology, which is the study of disease, and anatomy. There's a course called anatomy where you sit for a couple of weeks at the University of Pretoria. At the time, it was 7 weeks. You sit there with a cadaver, which is a dead body.
You sit with a dead body?
Yeah, and you
Hectic.
dissect it. So it would be from 8 to 4 every day where you're dissecting this dead body. And you walk around with bones because you're meant to now be at one with this body so you can,
Hectic.
A
real human being's body. Someone who donated their body to science.
I don't know about donate.
Aibo. Okay. Moving swiftly along. John Doe.
It was quite challenging for me. I think it was shortly after my mother had passed, and when we covered that part of the gastrointestinal system and the liver and the abdomen, and I actually asked to excuse myself. I was like, I can't do this. It's too much for me. And we were talking about jaundice, and my mother had all the symptoms of liver failure. So it was hard. But that said, I always wanted to make her proud. So I have to brave through this. I have to come right, and I must just focus and make my mom proud, which I did. Did I ever consider studying oncology? A little bit. No, because it's sensitive, especially the children suffering from cancers. They've shaved off their hair. I don't think it was ever easy for me, but I did consider it when I was still, considering specializing. I spoke to a friend of mine, I think, who's studying oncology currently. She's a registrar in oncology, and she's like, no, you maybe come through, have a look and see if it's something you'd consider. But that's as far as it went. My father actually did ask if I would consider it. But I think I quickly let that go. What else did you ask again?
I wanted to ask what people are misunderstanding about Western medicine.
Oh, yes.
Considering who brought it. And then when you said medicine is a science, I wanted to ask if science is enough, your understanding of science, and if traditional and African methods could be considered science. There's another question I hope I won't forget, which is, it's gone.
Okay,
Sorry.
So in my experience with my patients, a lot of them would say,
I remember the question.
Isangoma Sam never said I must stop with the Western medicine. So a lot of them, they wouldn't say, my stuff works, you must let go of the others.
Yeah.
It was always the patients and the patients' families that decided to let this side go and continue with the African traditional medicine.
Yeah.
So as far as I know and believe, the traditional practitioners always considered the Western medicine. The unfortunate thing is that when it came to Western medicine, we would always say, take our medicine only and don't take these because they might be detrimental to your health. We don't know how they affect your liver. We don't know how they affect your kidneys, and they might, progress the disease. They might make matters worse. So unfortunately on this side, which is the Western side, it was always, it's ours and nothing else. But on the other side, on the flip side, they always said, don't let go of your Western medicine. So there's always that. And again, it comes across as though Western medicine is superior because it has been studied. There's a science to it. These things have been run through experiments and they've been clinical trials. So they have been thoroughly investigated. So they are 100%. The same, I think, cannot be argued on the other side simply because they haven't been investigated as much. There haven't been clinical trials, or at least they haven't been published.
By the Western.
Western. So it comes across as though the Western is more superior than the other side. As to how much truth there is in that, I can't say 100%, yes, this side is right, or this one is a pure science and the other isn't.
I want to send a shout out to, I think it's 3. I've got 3 friends who are medical doctors.
Yeah.
Who are also trained sangomas.
Okay.
Sangoma, and they go through training of uba inyanga, herbalist. So some of the conversations we have is these 2 worlds and how we can try and merge them, because the conversations we have are all we're trying to do to what you wanted to do with medicine in the first place is we're trying to make people live better, be healthier. And some of the things are, you look at Med Lemon as a product. Yeah. It's boiled lemon, of which some people add ginger, honey, etc. If you look at Vicks as a product, I believe that's eucalyptus, Yeah. So...
Sorry, but they have added, I think, paracetamol to Med Lemon.
Paracetamol.
It's not just
lemon. There's also other things. So part of the concerns is this, but what's the difference and why the difference? Is it's a mixture and then obviously there's the conversation of money and capitalism and profit, which also muddies the conversation.
Yes.
The last 2 things I wanted to say, I've written a piece on accumulated advantage.
Okay.
Which I think a lot of us as people are sleeping on. A lot of us come from families of people that have certain skills and we almost never take those skills and then build on them. So I want to say shout out to you and your parents, considering that when I look at you and listen to you, I see a merger of your parents and a progression of you progressing from being a nurse, which was your mom, and progressing from being a lecturer, which was your dad, and merging the 2 and being something bigger, not better, but you've taken the baton that they gave you and you've gone further with it. And it's something we need to do. Maybe your children will one day specialize and be like, my grandmother was a nurse. My mom was just a GP. So I'm a specialist now. Maybe their children will build hospitals or health institutions because the foundation is already there.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something?
I wanted to say something that I think my father being a lecturer also does come through being a GP, because I get to teach my patients a lot about their illness, why they have what they have, what we can do to make sure that they come right, how they should take their treatment. I get to educate. Every time I get a diabetic patient or hypertensive, and I know that this is probably the pits for most doctors. They hate hypertension, diabetes, but for me, it's an opportunity to teach. Before we consider the drugs, let's talk to each other. Let me educate. Let's talk about STIs. Let's talk about the things that nobody really wants to talk about. Yeah. So I think I appreciate what you're saying about having both my mom and my dad in me. Yeah, I love that.
I don't know if I'm going to ask you a question in closing. Yeah. Oh, yes, I think I do. The last question I'm going to ask you, you knew you wanted to be a doctor from a young age.
Yes.
You were doing well at school?
Yes.
You were doing well at school?
Yeah.
It's just matric exams, of which it's a period in your life.
Yeah.
You went and you did your BSc. You graduated.
Yes.
You went into med school. You're a doctor today. There's, should you specialize, should you not, whatever. Not really in retrospect per se, in your opinion, we live in this world, and obviously I've got a biased opinion, but I'd like to know yours. We've got a situation where there are kids that want to serve humanity.
Yeah.
They want to serve. They know it in the depths of their hearts and souls. But they just don't, they're not good at the maths and the science. but they want to be doctors. They want to heal people. They want to speak to people and make them healthier. Then on the other side, you've got kids that don't really care, who just happen to cram maths and science and get distinctions. And they want to drive the Ferraris and the unfair question perhaps, but your opinion on potentially changing the education system so that it's not just about your academic results, but genuinely your personality in the work that you're doing, and that how that could impact a discipline as sensitive as medicine.
Sure. Very, very complex question. I think this is where people like myself should step up. Create awareness on what you need to focus on to get to where you need to be. A lot of people, for example, don't know that to get into medical school, having good marks is not enough. You also need to do extracurricular things. They also look at that. Were you a prefect? Did you do sports? Did you partake in the choir and the annual Stedford? They look at things like that. What is your role in the community?
Okay.
So if your marks are not good enough, number one, as a start, focus on the other things. 2, look into things like getting a tutor. Look into things like if you're in grade 10, a grade 12 student should look into tutoring programs. Things like mentorship programs. And again, I got the opportunity to be a mentor in third year medicine. I had, I think, 6 or 7 mentees. We should look into things like mentorship programs. Someone like myself should start mentoring young boys and girls or young men and women wanting to get into medical school. We should be making use of our communities. Teachers should also step up, play a role. Educational psychologists. I think there's something called a guidance
counselor,
yes,
or teacher at school.
We should, really make use of those people to see, Uti, is this really something you should be following? Is this the career path that's meant for you? If it is, what can we do to help you along?
From a personality perspective?
From a personality perspective.
Outside of just academics?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think all these things should really be looked into. And I think, thank you so much for this question. It's a challenge to someone like myself to also make a difference, to step up. And because now we live in a world of social media, I think it's a little bit easier to speak to a 17-year-old who's in Limpopo, who wants to study medicine, but their marks aren't great.
Sure.
This is where I then get to talk to them on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, and we have a plan. I mentor this young girl. What is going to be expected of you in medical school? What happens when you don't get into medical school?
What happens?
What happens then? What are the options? What are the alternatives? Do you think maybe medicine is what you should be doing, or maybe a career in the health fraternity? Maybe consider something like occupational therapy, physiotherapy, speech therapy. Yes, so I think it's not a unidimensional thing. I think a lot of people should be involved, people like myself. Yeah.
Do you think young children should be exposed to medicine at a young age?
Yes.
And the reason I asked this is because, again, to my question, and I'm glad you mentioned mentorship, I'll add apprenticeship. We had mothers, aunts, grandmothers that were delivering babies.
Yeah.
And today you need to get a qualification in an institution. Otherwise, you're deemed incompetent.
Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out the role of having young children outside of academics, getting maths and science, getting them exposed to medicine gently, and maybe whoever's mentoring them is like, I think this child is ready to watch an operation, and groom that child outside of academics to be like, I can say this child has spent 5 years delivering children, watching surgeries being done, assisting, helping to take bloods and those type of things. And I know there's arguments against it, probably for money and other things. But again, just your personal opinion in exposing children to medicine as early as possible it's a fundamental discipline again, I believe.
I think it's very good to expose them early on, not just for the qualification, but to also ascertain if this is something that you actually really want.
Yeah.
Medicine is not clean, and GP work, we're talking, it's not just that, there's a lot more to it, especially through internship, community service. It gets ugly and you're there, hands-on. And I'd like to add, there's something called a clinical associate. So clinical associate is something in between a nurse and a doctor. I think it's a 4-year program. And it was intended to close the gaps, particularly in poorer communities where there are no clinics or there are no doctors, to try and bridge that gap. So they do procedures. I think they can prescribe medicine. So people should also look into that. Unfortunately, sometimes they are frowned upon because they're neither a nurse nor are they a doctor.
Just floating.
They are somewhere in between. And are we a sister? Are we a doctor? What are we? You know. But
What's a male nurse called?
Charge nurse.
How? Not a brother, not a sister.
No.
They call it charge.
Charge.
A male nurse is called a charge.
Charge nurse.
Tina sibabiza ngo sister, but thank you.
And then losing my train
I'm
of
sorry,
thought.
you were speaking about a clinical associate. And that they're still floating and people kind of frown upon them, but they're meant to close a gap.
So I think exposure is good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there'll always be people that want to take chances. There's currently, as we speak, there's fake doctors, fake neurologists, fake neurosurgeons that make up their own.
How does that happen? Is it someone just going to a village and lying?
Fraud. No. People that go and work at a Steve Biko academic in Pretoria and they claim to be doctors, and I think they fraudulently create their degree certificates and all these papers, and
Hectic.
they get to be neurosurgeons, but they've never even qualified as doctors. So with that, with what you're saying, with why can't we just allow people to, with the necessary exposure and performing certain things over time, sort of have the qualification, there'll always be chances.
Sure.
1, 2. And unfortunately, there always has to be someone who governs these things. So I
there's
think
consequences.
these consequences. So things like, or societies or bodies rather, like the HPCSA, which is the Health Professions Council of South Africa, health professionals, governs health practitioners in the health fraternity. We would need to have a body similar to that.
Okay.
That would create standards and, you know, what should be followed, what should be done, what should not be done. Because, yes, there are medical doctors that are graduating every single year, but there's still such a big shortage of doctors and nurses across the country. It is a problem that we have. Funding is a big problem. So I think, yes, there's something similar to that can be looked into. Maybe we can even consider having an alternative program that falls outside of medicine to sort of try and curb the gap. Especially
in villages and small towns where
absolutely
other people can't get to, just to
100%.
To like run through the really basic stuff.
Yes.
Thank you so much for visiting us.
Thank you for having me.
Opening up and sharing such personal stories.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you to your mom. I'd like to believe she's listening to us now within yourself. Thank you to your father. There's so much we still need to discuss under healthcare. I've got so many questions, and I'm hoping when this episode comes out, a challenge to all of our viewers to also send more questions and thoughts to you, because I appreciate how open and frank and honest you are. A lot of doctors walk with a chip on their shoulder and they look down on people, and it saddens a person like myself, but it saddens a lot of people as well, because we're all meant to be helping each other. We're human beings at the end of the day. Just because you got good maths, good science, and you managed to study this qualification and you work with life and death should not mean you lose your humanity. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think we still have a lot to discuss, but thank you for visiting the Penuel Show, and I look forward to having you again.
Thank you.
Cheers.
That's a cut.
Damn.
Ooh la la. Nice one. That was great.
That was amazing. Look at you, superstar.
Have to
What did
leave.
you hear about the bomb, though?
Ouchie.
Thank you. You said you were not gonna make me
I didn't make you
cry.
cry. You did that to yourself.
You said you weren't gonna make me cry.
You did that to yourself.